Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another daily live webcast called Jenn Cast that happens Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern here on YFElive.com. I'm your host, Jennifer Donogh, and it is Focus Friday. For Focus Friday, you guys are going to be super excited because we've got Barack on. She's going to be talking about a recent blog post she wrote on how to drive traffic to your blog or website using Pinterest. And she has some really innovative tips, ones that I've never heard of, and this is a common frustration I know for a lot of people, a lot of young female entrepreneurs when it comes to marketing your services. So if you're not a product-based business, if you don't have, like in her blog post, she talks about, like gorgeous recipes or anything cutesy, crafty, that type of a thing, which a lot of us are in that boat. This is perfect for you. So let's go ahead and get started because we've got 8 points to go through. Barack, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a freelance writer, but you do much more than that. You have kind of a plethora of Barackness. So tell us about it.
I'm a freelance writer first and foremost, but I'm also an online community manager, and I freelance with everybody from startups to my most recent client was a global business, but I've been doing it for 5 years, and I've been on my own, and I've had a lot of different clients, and I kind of grew my own credibility from the ground up when I decided to do this 5 years ago, and I'm still learning a lot. So whenever I figure something out, I like to share it with everybody, which is where the blog post came from. But I am in Seattle now, but I'm originally from DC, and I just moved out here a year ago. And I have a self-published book that is on Amazon right now that has nothing to do with my business, but it's just poetry. So, and that's the quick rundown of what I do.
The very quick of what you do. Like I said, there's a lot of things. And one of the things that we were talking about before this, and I didn't know this about you, you started at Brazen Careerist.
I did. That was the first company I worked with that I discovered I liked doing community management, because I didn't know what I really wanted to do. Like, I wanted to do social media, and I wanted to do writing, and I have a customer service background. And when I started working with Ryan Paw as his associate to do community management, that was the moment it clicked, and I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I've been looking for. And that was, like I said, about 5 years ago now.
What an amazing start. I was telling Barack before we went live, Ryan Paw, he's a co-founder of YEC. He was a co-founder of Brazen Careerist. He seems like an amazingly, genuinely kind of nice guy, but also incredibly successful. So how cool. And Penelope Trunk, she was one of the co-founders. She's very well known online. So what amazing way to be introduced to that type of a role. So Barack, let's talk about this Pinterest post. You put it on your blog, which is at Barack, and how do you pronounce your last name?
Sarakaya.com.
I'll put the link up for everyone to get it too afterwards. But so it's how to use Pinterest to drive traffic to your lifestyle blog, and we pulled 8 points from it to kind of go over today. Because like I said, a lot of us are in that service-based business part of entrepreneurship where we want to bring people, we want to use all these social media tools, especially the visual ones, but who the heck knows how to do that? And so you figured out a way to do that. And so the first thing that I wanted to talk about, though, was that as a freelance writer, you said you wanted to start using Pinterest to just use it for like a writing portfolio. What did you mean? How can you use something that's so visual as a writing portdocumentation?
I actually have a post on that as well, but I decided, because I have, as a blogger, I've been blogging, but I've also been doing freelance writing for different websites. And as a writer, I don't, if you're a freelance graphic designer or a freelance, website designer, you can do a visual website and visual portfolio online, but when you're a freelance writer, that's kind of harder to do. So what I did was I started pinning images from the blog posts that I did for various clients. And I created a writing portfolio board for that. And that way, when somebody asked me for a writing sample, I would just send them the link to my writing portfolio, which is only a sample of my writing, but it's a good representation of the different types of clients I've had and various types of writing that I've done. And it's actually been really well received from, I think I put up that board about 2 years ago, or right around the time Pinterest was blowing up. And it's whenever I apply I put in a bid for a job or somebody asks for a writing sample, unless they specifically ask for a specific type of content, I'll just send them that link. And that gives them a visual representation before they even start reading the content to see what type of content that I've done.
Oh, that's a good idea. So, and then, I mean, what we're talking about, and I just showed everyone that blog post, and I'll make sure that I link to that one as well. But what we're talking about is how to use visuals in every blog post that gets regular people to click through. So you're not necessarily sending over a portfolio. Mm-hmm. And one of those, the points that you said, is to use the title of your blog as visual representation. So we're talking about basically taking words and turning them into images, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what did you mean by using the title of your blog as your visual representation? Is that just simply copying and pasting what you have on the blog post, and that's effective?
It's usually especially when, so to use a blog that we're talking about, it's how to use Pinterest to drive traffic to your lifestyle blog. So instead of pulling a quote from that blog, and instead of pulling a point, when people go to it, they'll be able to see the image that I have at the top of the blog. And that's the image that I use on Pin. And that is because as writers, we work so hard to make sure that our headlines are clickable and it will drive people to click to it and read it. Why not use that word, those words, to actually drive traffic in a visual representation too? And it doesn't mean that you have to, fancy it up or anything. It's just using, I think PicMonkey was one of the websites that I mentioned on the blog. It's just go on there, pick a font, pick a background, and, create a square image and pin that onto Pinterest.
So let's talk about then the second point that you had is to always include your name and or blog URL at the bottom of the picture. And this is something that, it's funny that you say this in this, because I always feel a little weird including my URL or anything about me in a picture that I do. So, I mean, is this something that people get turned off of? Because you said some of these pins that you're putting up there get 80 repins or whatever you call them.
Yeah, it was the one that I used as an example was actually from a personal blog of mine, and as of today, I think it's up to 85 repins, and it has my name and my URL on it, and it's really strange and it feels weird to do it. I mean, when I first started doing it, when I first started quoting or pinning things from my personal blog, I didn't do it, and then I thought about it, and we give credit to other writers when we, for their words when we use them or when we pin them on Pinterest or share them on Facebook. So why wouldn't we give ourselves that credit, especially if it's something that's going to be shared? So it's, sense. Your words are going to come back, because not everybody, like people, especially on Pinterest, people will change the caption of it to, for their personal reasons or whatever. And that way the image that's actually getting pinned will still give you credit and will be able to drive traffic to your blog when people want to find out exactly where it came from.
Well, and then you also say to keep it short. And then the fourth point we're talking about is to, no need to fancy up the image. Let the words draw focus.
Yeah. It's, you don't need to pick like a medieval font or like a really cursive font and that's what I mean, because I get tempted to. I'm like, I want to make it pretty font, but then that makes it hard to read, because it's like, you have to think about it, especially on Pinterest, people are scrolling through, and it's like, you have a couple of seconds to draw attention. You have a couple of seconds for people to read what you're saying. So pick a clear font, pick something that's easy to read, be consistent with it. And I'm not like, you don't have to necessarily have like a white background with black text. If you want, like, you'll see that I kind of, the image that I picked for this blog, I created a corkboard because it's about pinning. So, there's still a little bit of a visual representation, but it doesn't have to be super fancy. It's just the words that are important.
Well, and you said keep it consistent, and there's some of the examples on here I'll put up for you guys to see. And so she does. I mean, you keep it pretty consistent looking as far as the typeface, and it's nothing crazy different. Mm-hmm. So it's still kind of a visual representation of your brand at the same time, along with that. So the fifth point is to go back to your older posts and see if you can find any takeaways. I loved this one because this is kind of like a weekend project to do where you have some extra time. Mm-hmm. And so what happens when you do that?
It basically, whether it's a lifestyle blog or whether it's a service, it's for your company and you've done thought leader blog posts about your industry, why not go back and it's probably something that people are quoting you on anyway, and it will keep your content fresh. It will start driving traffic, and it will get the conversation going around that topic again. And when I did that with my personal blog, it was a chance for me to kind of reread through my past posts, because I kind of do that once a year anyway. I'll just go do reflective. But it was also a good way to find things that I've said to people, but I had no visual representation of it. And it was just kind of a fun thing to do. And a lot of my pins that go to my lifestyle blog are actually from my older posts. There's one from 3 years ago, I think, that gets a lot of traffic.
That's funny. Yeah, I need to go back and do this, because with Pinterest, I've just, I read Gary Vaynerchuk's Jab, 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 Right Hook, and I understand I'm supposed to do different content pieces for every social network, and it does get a little bit overwhelming, so I'll have to go back and really take some of these points and do it myself. Your 6th point is hashtags are your friends, but you had a little caveat with that, and why they are our friends and where they should be our friends.
Yeah, there are friends when it's in the description of the pin, not the actual image. So when people are, when I do a search on Pinterest, I'll use hashtags, or it's the search, same as Twitter, now I guess same as Facebook. But when I pulled a quote from my book, from my short story, the hashtags I used were about short story, ebook, and then quotes and quotables are the 2 hashtags I'll always use. But it's a good way, because a lot of people will use the search function on Pinterest, especially when they're looking for something. So take advantage of it. But don't use it on your actual image, because it kind of looks goofy and kind of doesn't serve any type of purpose whatsoever.
That's a good point. And so the next point that I think everyone's going to be excited about, if you don't know about these services yet, you listed 2 for creating these text images really easily. Because we said, going back to your earlier points, that you want to keep it easy, keep it fancy, keep it simple, keep it short, or keep it not fancy, keep it simple and short. And so you listed as tools as PicMonkey, and I don't know how you say the second one.
I don't know how to say it either. There's a link to it in my blog. And I've actually been using PicMonkey since it was Picnic, before Picnic closed down. And that it was the founders of Picnic that started PicMonkey. But recently, before you could only upload an image and edit it and add text to it. But recently they have now an option where you can create images. So that gives you a chance to, if you want to just do a text-based image, and you pick the dimensions and everything that you want to do. And it's so easy, and they have a variety of fonts, and they have a bunch of overlays, and that's how I created the image that's in the blog post that we're talking about now. It's just a couple of the overlays, one of the little pin image, and then the font that I like to use for it. And it's super easy, and especially if once you start using it regularly, you can have a template that you can work off of, or you can just exactly what you're going to use, so it makes it super simple. That's
so cool. Yeah, we're looking through it right now, so we'll have to do, gosh, Brock, this is adding to my to-do list.
Sorry.
And so the second one, the Q thing.
So the one caveat about the second website, it's you'll see that a lot of, it's where if you look in my blog, the one that the picture that I used to demonstrate the 82 pins, that's, and you'll see that font and that background a lot in Pinterest, because that's one of the templates that website has. And the problem with that website is you can't customize it. So that's why I like PicMonkey. Even though I've used that website quickly, I'm now using PicMonkey a lot more to create the images from scratch, just because everybody is using the same one. So if you want to stand out and if you want to be branded, I would recommend PicMonkey over the second website that just has templates that a lot of other people are using as well.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then your last point was to share the image you're pinning on Instagram as well.
Yes, especially if, obviously you can't, hyperlinks don't work in Instagram captions, but if you have your blog.
When people put long links on there, I'm like, I can't click that.
Yeah, no, but if you have, if the official website that you have on your Pinterest profile is your blog, then I would recommend using Pinterest Instagram to use Instagram and your profile to drive traffic to it, because if it's already there, it's just one more click. And if, I've seen other bloggers do it as well. So it's definitely helpful. And I don't have a lot of traffic from Instagram, but it's still one more place for people to share and see your images, especially if it's like a quote and you use your caption to kind of explain what it means and what the blog is about. And if people want to click to it, you can just say, profile is in my link. And it's fun. And I mean, I'm seeing on Instagram a lot more people doing quote images and things that means a lot to them personally and things that have stood out for them. So it's definitely one more place to get your word out.
And I've clicked through based off of like an image, kind of like the one that you've put at the top of your blog post. If it's something that looks interesting or enticing, especially when it has that blog post title. So yeah, going back to your first point, that totally makes sense to do that. Gosh, so many things to do. So Barak, where can we find out more about you? Read your blog posts, follow you on Twitter, that type of a thing.
Well, if you link to my blog, you can follow me on Twitter at BarakDC, BERRAKDC, if you want to put that. And that's pretty much where I am everywhere online. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'll always link to my Facebook and my blog posts and everything. And I'm on Twitter a lot. So it's I've kept that handle. That's kind of my branding. So if you Google that, you'll find me everywhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was so fun to talk to you. And like I said before, I love this blog post. It really got me thinking about how to do things differently, and hopefully everyone else got the same out of it. So Barak, thank you again, and have a fantastic Friday.
Thank you. You too. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, everyone. You've just been watching Barak. She is from, Barak, how do you say your last name one more time?
Sarakaya.
Gosh. Barak Sarakaya at baraksarakaya.com. We'll include all of the links that we talked about below on this blog post. Make sure that you sign up for the YFE mailing list to stay in the loop with everything YFE. It's yfe.me/mailedit. We're going to send out some information about the daily action calendar later today, and of course some updates that are happening in March. So again, thank you so much for watching the daily live webcast called Jenn Cast. I've been your host, Jennifer Donogh. You can tweet me at Jennifer Donogh, use the hashtag JennCast, and make sure that you comment below this with any takeaways that you had from Barak. Have a fantastic Focus Friday, everyone, and we'll see you next week.